all of them. And this first duo here is Maquette Bean and Douglas Moore. And Maquette has come all the way from Turks and Caicos Islands Hospital. And Doug has come from Toronto, so not as fancy. So they're going to talk about leading change, promoting and strengthening an evidence-based culture at Turks and Caicos Islands Hospital. And here's the clicker, Maquette, and go for it.
Pleasant good morning to everyone. Good morning. My name is Maquette Bean, as was introduced by Suzanne. And with me, I have my colleague, Mr. Douglas Moore. He is our consultant. And online, we should have our team from the Turks and Caicos Islands Hospital. Hello, team. Okay, and we are here. We are delighted to be here today to present to you our journey with the BPSO program. And our journey, we will be talking about leading change, promoting and strengthening an evidence-based culture at the Turks and Caicos Islands Hospital, which is located in the Caribbean. So, by way of providing you with some background information, our hospital in the year 2010, InterHealth Canada commissioned 2 state-of-the-art hospitals on behalf of the Turks and Caicos Islands government through a private-public partnership agreement. The Cheshire Hall Medical Center, which is a 20-bedded hospital, and the Cockburn Town Medical Center, which is a 10-bedded hospital. The Cheshire Hall is located in the island of Providenciales, and the Cockburn Town is located at the Grand Turk facility in Grand Turk. And we are a Diamond accredited hospital, the only acute care hospital, the only acute care hospital in the Caribbean. And we have earned 3 Diamond accreditation from 2015 to date. And we are now in our 5th cycle for accreditation next year. Okay, we have joined the Best Practice Spotlight organization in 2021 during the pandemic, and we are delighted to be a part of this program. So like many of you, we have selected 3 BPGs, and the 3 BPGs that we have selected are 1, the person and family-centered care, assessment and management of pressure injuries, preventing fall and reducing injuries from fall. So what have we done? Mapping out the whole process and making sure that we are leading change and utilizing the toolkit, the change toolkit that we have gotten from RNAO. There were 3 main objectives that we looked at. 1 was creating strategies to develop an evidence-based interdisciplinary team culture at the Turks and Caicos Islands Hospital. And by doing so, what we did, we developed the governance structure, which is our steering committee. We have leadership from all areas, from top management to lower management, supervisors, and we even have patients involved in our steering committee. We continue with our leadership orientation on a monthly basis. When we meet, we provide updated information to our leadership team, both locally as well as internationally. We have reviewed our existing policies against the BPG, and if there are anything that is outstanding, we then will provide a review of that policy or create a policy if it's warranted. We continue with our training of our knowledge experts and our bridging team. Because we are a very small hospital, we have combined both knowledge experts and the bridging teams together to form that program. Profiling and motivational strategies to sustain the ongoing momentum and enthusiasm in the spirit of evidence-based care. We continue with our recruitment and our training of our BPSO champions, both locally as well as internationally through RNAO. We have a repository of the web page on our intranet for our our staff, as well as we have the other aspect whereby you can link in to our page online and be able to access our information on TCI Hospital BPSO program. We continue to empower our informal and our formal leaders. We also have established reward and recognition programs whereby after they've completed the trainings, we will be celebrating, and we also provide them with a button. And the button we do have an example, and the button says, "Your health, our mission." And of course, each individual who has successfully participated in the program, they are provided with a button. And of course, not lastly, testing the change model as recommended by RNAO using the leading tool change kit. We are adopting new change models, supporting the knowledge to action and social movement frameworks, and of course, ongoing orientation and training staff and leaders in developing an enhanced culture of the evidence-based practice, utilizing new change models in conjunction with existing theory. Thank you for listening. I will now hand you over to Mr. Douglas Moore, who will continue with the presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. I think you all heard that Anne and her presentation had said that she was an RN. I'm an RN as well, and I have been an RN for 50 plus years. So I'm going to talk about our journey, our BPSO journey, and keep in mind that this journey is focused on promoting and strengthening evidence-based culture. Okay, so what I'm going to speak about, because we only have 5 minutes, is just about our culture. So when we went through our orientation, we were introduced to the Knowledge to Action framework. Shortly after, we were introduced to the Social Movement Action framework. So Maquette just told you a little bit about a button that we designed. We quickly thought, you know what, we have to frame this and do some framing. So we did some framing, and we created this button. As Maquette has said, it's a button that we give to the staff. The button has a lamp on it, which represents knowledge. We kind of thought of Florence Nightingale and her lamp. So we kept the lamp, and then we made sure that we put our own slogan on. We had a test for that among the staff, and they came up with "Your Health, Our Mission." So one of the other things, too, is when we signed a contract with RNAO, as you all did, we had to commit to presenting at a conference, and we thought, oh, okay. So Maquette talked to the CEO, Dr. Brathwaite, and we decided, well, not only will we present, let's do a conference. And so what we did is we put on a conference in Turks and Caicos, and the aim of the conference was to give a platform to network and with a diverse audience of international and regional healthcare providers and decision makers. And when I say decision makers, those decision makers were our Minister of Health, all of our ministers, all of the staff were invited. Other international organizations were invited. And the thing that really made this special, it was free to everybody. There was no charge at a prestigious resort, Beaches. If you can believe this, it was wonderful. Suzanne was one of the speakers, and basically 85% of the attendees felt that the conference was a success. And it was an amazing, and this again was social, the social movement activity that we really got into. I'm getting the sign that says 1 more minute. I better hurry it up. So the other thing that we've done is we've established a best practice community council just for BPSO. And it's not to ask for their permission, it's to get their input and to share what we're doing. So that is something that we're very proud of. I've talked about the conference. Oh, I haven't been using this little clicker here. Or you're doing it for me, okay. So the other thing is we're constantly talking about our data collection. My cat's got it. And we talk about our data collection, what we need to provide for Enquire, what we want to do within the organization, because there are many things that we're doing that we want to measure and, really look at it. So, but I got wrap up. Okay. The other thing that I want to share with you, though, that we just completed, we did a survey. We did a readiness survey using the Leading Change Toolkit and the Sustainable Model. And in the outcome of the survey, what we identified was that over 80% of the staff within the organization are ready for the change. There was one area that we really need to pay attention to, and that is, do they have time to implement these new changes? 61% said they did have time, so we see that there's a little gap there that we need to address. So I've got wrap up, so I'm going to wrap up. Thank you very much for listening to our presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you both so much, Doug and Maquette. That was wonderful. Now I would like to invite Irene New from Southlake Regional Health Center. And actually, Southlake is the mentor organization for Turks and Caicos Islands Hospital. And Irene, we're delighted to have you, and you're going to be speaking about mobilizing change team, merging best practice guideline implementation and BPSO reinvigoration. So welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Irene. I am one of the project leads on the interprofessional practice team at Southlake Regional Health Center, and I'm also a registered nurse by background. And I'm very excited to be here, and in the next few minutes, share a little bit about how Southlake was able to mobilize our change team by merging best practice guideline implementations and our BPSO reinvigoration strategy. Green button? Okay. Green button is not working for me, but maybe just to provide a little bit of context about Southlake. Oh, there it is. So just to provide a little bit of context and the landscape of Southlake. Southlake is a community hospital based up in Newmarket, and we provide healthcare services to communities up in the northern GTA area. We were first designated as a BPSO designation back in 2018, and I also want to highlight here that our nursing leadership team has been very committed and supportive of BPSO work since we began this journey, and that's something I think a lot of BPSO designations, something that it's important to strive for. Having their recognition and value of how BPSO work can positively impact patient care has been really beneficial for us. But I think like a lot of BPSO designations, with the pandemic, we found that that really imposed a big challenge for us to engage our champions and to really move forward BPG implementation activities. So in the summer of 2022, as we're kind of coming out of the pandemic fog, Julie Schmidt and myself, who are the BPSO program leads, we thoughtfully sat down and talked about what is our objective going to be for this year. And we landed on that we really wanted to be able to reinvigorate our BPSO champions by engaging them and empowering them through involving them in the identification and selection of a BPG to implement. And the hope that is that when we have an empowered and engaged champions team, they'll be more effective and motivated to move forward BPG activities. Okay, try the green button again. Okay. So the dilemma really did still remain. How are we going to engage our champions when they were still very much experiencing the repercussions of the pandemic? Specific to Southlake, which I don't think it's unique to us, staffing challenges and burnout were the biggest key factors. So the idea kind of came about. It was actually an aha moment Julie and I had when we had an informal coffee chat. I do think that all good ideas start with coffee, so that's how it originated. So we're just having an informal chat and we talked about it and we thought, why don't we try to come up with one activity where we could meet both of our goals of implementing our BPSO reinvigoration strategy, which highly involves engaging our champions, and then also to address the goal of moving forward BPG activities. So we thought, let's combine those two goals and make it into reality with one activity. So you might ask, what is this magical activity we came up with? It's actually quite straightforward. What we came up with was, it's a prioritization and selection activity. So what this activity involved is that at one of our BPSO quarterly meetings, those ones typically are more well attended, so we chose that one specifically. With good attendance, we started off with open and transparent dialogue with our champions. And we asked them and gave them the steering wheels and said, pick the BPG that you think is most relevant to you. With open and transparent dialogue, though, Julie and I did preface the conversation and share with them what we anticipated were going to be corporate priorities over the next 2 years. We didn't say you had to do these BPGs, but it may be something to think about. So once we kind of had that dialogue, we said, look at the BPGs that we haven't implemented, the ones we've already implemented, come up with a short list of things you want to work on over the next 2 years. So that's what they did. They came back to us with a short list, and then what we did was on big poster boards, on each one, we wrote the title of BPG, and then we gave champions Post-its, 2 Post-its each. They're only allowed to have 2 votes. And then we said, go around the room, choose 2 BPGs that you yourself want to work on over the next 2 years. So that's what occurred, and let's see where we are now. So with that activity, our champions selected 3 best practice guidelines. 2 are the new ones that we're implementing over this 2-year cycle, and the 3rd one, falls prevention, is the one that we've already implemented that they identified needed a little bit more TLC. So with this, where I feel that we were really able to empower our champions to become engaged and involved, they really became an engaged team, and I think that's one of the successes to how we're able to move forward implementation activities. So I'm happy to share that for each BPGs, we recruited 2 BPG leads to lead the work. Well, one wellness board was developed at our Southlake main site that staff can access. 2 restraint audits were completed. Our champions hosted 5 least restraint education sessions for clinical staff. And then we ourselves hosted 2 wellness sessions for our BPSO champions, who then took that information and disseminated it amongst their teams. So yeah, that's my quick presentation. I don't know if we have time for questions and answers.
Well, let's give a round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you.
What we can do is just do the final presentation and then have questions at the end. Is that all right?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. So our 3rd and final presentation is actually a recorded presentation, and this is from Clara Bendito Barber, and it's strategies for the implementation of BPSO during the pre-designancy period. So let's hear from her.
My name is Clara Bendito. I am one of the 3 coordinators of the Balearic Island Regional Post in Spain. My colleagues and I are very grateful to the scientific and organizing committee for the opportunity to present our study. We would have liked to be in Toronto with all of you, but for schedule reasons it has been impossible. The Balearic Islands are a region of Spain located in the Mediterranean Sea. Menorca Health Area was designated in 2017 as the first BPSO center in the Balearic Island. We currently have 4 designated centers and 2 new candidate centers distributed between Mallorca and Menorca, but we are convinced that the program will be soon extended to all the island. These centers are coordinated by the Balearic Island Regional Host. As you already know, BPSO institutions go through different phases during the pre-designancy period, in which they adopt different strategies to achieve the implementation of the guidance. The objective of this study is to describe the implementation strategies carried out by the BPSO centers during the presidency period. A retrospective descriptive study of the first BPSO cohort in the Balearic Islands was carried out during the presidency period. The study period was between the years 2019 to 2021. The year 2020 was excluded due to the pandemic. The information was extracted from the reports and the activities annex. A data collection sheet was prepared that included the following variables: year, organization, guidelines, training, materials produced, and dissemination strategies. Finally, a descriptive analysis was carried out for all the variables. 3 center reports were reviewed. A total of 311 strategies were counted. 49% focused on the creation of different materials, the most produced being posters for professionals. On the bottom of the slide, you can see different materials produced by the champions. On broadcasting strategies, the 3 centers created their own Twitter accounts. The presentation of posters and communication in congresses increased significantly during the 3rd year. When analyzing the training, it was observed that the first year the teaching was oriented to the training of champions. Later, they increased specific training related with the best practice guidance. To conclude, during the first year, the centers displayed less activity than the 3rd year. As we have seen, the strategies used are different and their success often depends on the context. If we are able to identify the most successful strategies and the typical program development process in BPSO, we'll be able to help and guide the centers during the presidency period. This brings me to the end of my presentation. We will be happy to receive your questions or suggestions by email or Twitter. Thank you for your attention during this presentation. We hope you continue enjoying the symposium. Kind regards.
So Clara, if you're online and watching this, we thank you very much, and we're waving at you from the audience. That's great. Thank you so much. So could I actually have Maquette and Doug and Irene up here and see what questions that people might have for you? I know I've got a couple of my own, but let's just hear what questions people might have for our speakers. Yes, please.
Hi, I'm Karina. I'm from Heritage Green in Stony Creek. One question I have is, Maquette, how did you do your community council? And who's on it? And how you introduced it? I'm curious to know.
Okay, great question. For our community council, we as a team from the steering committee, we sat down, we wrote a terms of reference for those individuals who would have been selected. And the individuals that was put forward were those individuals who were actually patients, who attended our facilities on both sides. And of course, it wasn't really random selection, but we allowed the committee members to select those individuals, and that information was based on our terms of reference for our selection.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Christina. Yeah.
First of all, I just want to say I'm taken aback by everybody's presentation. I agree. Good ideas always happen over coffee or tea, and it's just fantastic that you're able to have that. Sorry, do you want me to
Project. Yeah, maybe.
Oh, maybe too loud. All right,
Christina.
yeah, I just wanted to say I'm taken aback by everybody's presentation. So my name is Christina Girls. I'm the senior manager of evaluation and monitoring at RAO, and I see the data, but just seeing all the work that goes into all this implementation is just so. Thank you. So inspiring, and I'm just so blown away. And I was saying how great ideas happen over coffee and tea, and that's just fantastic. My question is and your presentation, Doug and Maquette, was also super fantastic, and yours too. And I just had a question about. I want to hear more about your conference in Turks and Caicos. You know what was presented, because I was unable to come, and I want to come to the next one. But I just want to hear more. I'm having a little feeling of being left out, a little FOMO, you know? And so I just want to hear more about it, so.
Doug, you want to? Yeah.
The conference was amazing. It really was. Suzanne gave an overview of the BPSO program, because you have to remember we're in Turks and Caicos, and what are we taking from Canada to Turks and Caicos? We already have the name InterHealth Canada, okay? We have the accreditation. Accreditation Canada accreditates us. We have the highest accreditation. So we wanted to profile more what nursing is doing in best practice, who are our partners. So we also had very high officials. You have to remember, Turks and Caicos is a very small island, 40,000 people. Like, that's about the size of Orangeville, right? A population. But we wanted to profile what we've done and what we're doing. And we invited nurses to come and speak about their experience. We invited patients to come and speak about their experiences at the hospital. The other thing that we didn't talk about is we have knowledge experts. Every BPG has a knowledge expert, and on that, each knowledge expert has a team of what we call a bridging team. So the bridging team helps the knowledge expert disseminate the information, but each knowledge expert presented on each of their BPGs of what our baseline data is, what we've been doing, what our education sessions are, and what our plans are. We had people that worked in the community, and the chief of nursing, the chief nursing officer for the country was there. She was so inspired, and she wants to roll it out to all community nursing agencies within the island. It just was a wonderful conference. I can't say anything more. Maquette, do you want to add anything?
I think you said it all.
Okay.
I'll just add that there's the BPSO host model that that's always an option for regional or country hosts. So thank you. And Irene, I just had a question for you, because I think sometimes when we have these kinds of engagement activities, people sometimes get a little bit nervous that if they participate, they're going to end up having more work. Did that come up for you at all, or were people more like eager to get involved? Can you just speak about that a little bit?
I think because it was in a large room and everyone was doing the activity at the same time, I didn't ask them to identify themselves on the Post-its. That probably helped out a little bit. And currently right now, how we implement BPGs is that we recruit a BPG lead for each one we want to implement, and typically we recognize it's very difficult for clinical staff to do that, so we typically look to a nurse educator or a clinical nurse specialist who has a little bit more time to kind of take on the major work, but they'll come back to the champions team to disseminate information, gather their input, and ask them to help champion that work. So that's the model we've been looking into. So I feel the champions are a little bit less distressed about having to own the work through that model, and there's good uptake. Yes.
I have a question about the BPSO quarterly meetings,
Yeah.
the champion meetings.
Yeah.
Who comes to those? Like, who's invited to those meetings? Sorry. The BPSO champion meetings that you
Yes.
talked about quarterly.
Yes.
Who are the individuals that come? Any champion that's completed their certification, or is it a specific role?
So all champions are invited to come. We host monthly an hour and a half meetings, and then quarterly 4-hour meetings. The purpose of the quarterly 4-hour meetings is that we take about half the time for work sessions, because again, we know clinical staff, it's hard to get away from their 12-hour shift. I will also highlight that BPSO work is paid time at Southlake. So some of the staff do like to kind of take that advantage, gain more knowledge, and also be paid for it and be recognized for their work. So that's the model. It's typically, we have nursing staff, nurse educators. We have a wellness advisor to help with our health and wellness board. We have a DEI representative. Allied Health also sits on it. We have an NP from our behavioral support team for the restraint works. So it's a wide range of people. And then I think I shared this at the OHT meeting. We also send out newsletters to highlight and recognize the work. The quarterly meeting, the newsletter comes out after our quarterly meeting, and that one goes out to senior leadership teams. So directors, managers, educators are CC'd on that email so that the champions feel that their work is valued and recognized.
Great. Thank you so much. I think there's time for one more question.
Does Turks and Caicos have a sister hospital here in Toronto? Like, do you work with a hospital here? Like you're from Toronto, so do you represent a hospital here?
Yes, I'm from Toronto, but I also worked for Southlake at one point in time. So we tap into Irene, and Irene is a great, and Julie, and they're a great resource. We've also tapped into the University of the West Indies and their representatives, and yeah, we get a lot, and Susan, we meet with Susan every other week, and she really guides and shepherds us along.
It's my absolute great pleasure to do that. Yeah, yes. And I do hope that I get to go to the beaches with you sometime soon. So on the slide here is the Twitter handle and also email for Clara. So can you make a note of that if you have any particular questions that you want to ask her, because she wasn't able to be here in person. And I just want us all to thank very much our guests for this excellent presentation and for staying for the Q&A. And now I think we're going to be having lunch, poster viewing, and networking until 1 o'clock.
Sorry, but I